In a world where fake news rules over all, one bee arises, wielding the stinger of satire, driving it into the unsnopable heart of evil, while eating a Chick-fil-A sandwich. This summer, Satan is about to get owned big time. Starring Kirk Cameron as Joel Osteen.
Living large, hanging out with the beautiful people, making lots of money.
Kevin Sorbo as Bernie Sanders.
They should pay their fair share of taxes.
John MacArthur as himself.
Wicked people.
And Kyle Mann and Ethan Nicolle.
I'm Kyle Mann. I'm Ethan Nicolle.
With a special guest appearance by Brian Godawa.
Amadeus.
The blockbuster event of the new millennium. The Babylon Bee Movie podcast episode. Yeah, it's just a podcast episode about movies.
Yes, this is Kyle Mann.
This is Ethan Nicolle.
And this is such an exciting blockbuster episode of the Babylon Bee.
Summer, yeah, blockbuster episode.
This
is our movie episode.
Once in a lifetime, there comes along a podcast episode that will change your life and change the way you see everything, and this is that episode.
That's
especially
right.
Movies.
That's right. And you heard that third voice.
Who is that?
We have a special guest today, our movie guru, Brian Godawa, the man who wrote the book that I always enjoyed reading called Hollywood Worldviews. He likes to dig into he's like a mind reader of Hollywood scripts, and you can dig out. Anyway, Brian's here. He's a screenplay writer. He's like a theology nerd, and he's also a novelist. And here he is sitting across from us. He's joined us in our new little office studio that we have going here.
Thanks for having me, guys. And I have one request.
Yeah.
You're talking a little slow. I listen to my podcasts at 1.5 speed. So would you mind talking a little faster today? I appreciate that.
Maybe do a little Ben Shapiro?
Yeah.
We're both way too laid back. And we like kind of stare at each other and kind of go, between
Do you want to say
sentences.
something next?
I don't know. Do you
Should I
want to
say
we should talk
something?
next. I need to look at our notes. Can everybody hold on a second?
Yeah, it's a really good skill to have when you're running a podcast, a popular podcast.
Yeah.
To not really know how to be able to talk and
You got to fill
when to say
silences up.
I'll take this time now to promote my latest works. Just kidding.
Yeah, Brian writes these epic novels. We'll get into that. He writes like Lord of the Rings with Noah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to talk movies.
Yeah.
'Cause, like I said, Brian wrote a book called Hollywood Worldviews. He used to write this blog, which I think you still have a blog, but you used to write every movie that came out. Write these long, epic blog posts. Yeah. Just digging into what's the world view of this movie, what's it saying, and I just found it fascinating. So I would when we start this podcast, that'd be fun to do the occasional movie episode.
Yeah,
where we just talk movies.
I know a lot of you guys just get your news, your week's news from the Babylon Bee podcast, and you're going to be disappointed this week because we're not covering the news. We're going to cover three kind of general movies and genres, and then we're going to talk about a topic of the week, which is anti-Christian or anti-conservative bias in Hollywood and in films. And we're going to see, does it exist? Does it not exist? Is it a conspiracy theory or what? So
are we being snowflakes? Yeah, so we'll find out. And then we're going to get into some more specific movies and things in the subscriber portion. Excited about. Okay, so
you sound really excited about it.
I'm very excited about it.
Woohoo!
Like if this was a Hollywood audition, I would hire you as excited guy number one.
I can do excited. We work in a place with other neighbor people. I don't want to scare people.
Every week, there are movies. These are some of them.
We are going to talk about AI and robots and sci-fi.
So what are the big sci-fi movies right now? Because I don't watch them because I'm a nerd. I'm not a nerd.
Gosh, I don't keep up either. I just saw Alita Battle Angel.
So this is a perfect topic to start with.
All right.
First of all, I got to say the hottest thing right now, in my opinion, it's going to be, is the new release on Netflix of a Russian series actually called Better Than Us, and it is sort of a slightly in the near future, not super futuristic, but where robots have gotten to the point where AI is starting to be developed in them. And robots are used all throughout for servant-oriented things and stuff. But now there's this new special robot, which is a woman. And of course, she's sexy. And
we're gonna have to bleep that out.
Yeah,
messed up.
I can't say sexy.
Anyway, so it wrestles with the issues of AI, which I think one of the most popular notions in movies and series. I use that word movies, but the truth is the best stories nowadays are the streaming series.
Which is really long movies.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it's a catch-all phrase. But so this it's a story where a guy, he's a doctor. He's struggling with his divorced marriage, and he gets thrown in the midst of this thing. And this robot imprints itself on his little daughter, who's just a cute, wonderful, cute little girl. And it's all about this issue of, can robots actually become emotive, become more human-like? And it's not like you can't tell the difference. It's not like that at all. It's just it's the next step of becoming more sensitive and being able to mimic. But the whole premise is, and this is the premise of all AI in modern sci-fi movies, whether it's Westworld, Ex Machina, Transcendence, even Alita, Battle Angel to some degree, is the premise. It's this premise, the neuroscientific evolutionary premise that humanity, the identity of humanity is not transcendent. It's not, it's basically not in the image of God. It's not unique. We are simply more complex organisms. So therefore, the premise of the evolutionary science is, well, as an organism becomes more complex, it actually becomes more self-aware. So couldn't a robot with AI that is always learning and growing, therefore develop an identity or a consciousness or a soul or whatever you want to call it, right? So that, I think, is the major driver of all the AI stuff thing. It's the premise of Westworld.
Question of determinism, right?
Exactly. And this is why, for me, personally, I don't believe in that. And so when I watch these movies and stuff where, you've got people falling in love with a robot, I don't buy it, and it's not very interesting to me because I don't believe that they're humans, and so the romance is not real and it's not satisfying, right?
Can you watch a movie though where obviously it's built on a philosophy you disagree with, and just kind of buy into their worldview for that couple hours and enjoy it and say that is an interesting thought, but I disagree with it?
Absolutely. In fact, that's what I'm doing with Better Than Us. It's a 16-part series. I'm almost done with it. It's a fantastic story. I highly recommend it. It's great because it wrestles with the issues. And even if I don't agree with it, that's okay. I mean, I enjoyed Alita, Battle Angel. I enjoyed Westworld to some degree, even though I fundamentally disagree with their whole premise. But what I'm speaking is more like emotionally and just as a story, watching a story, if you don't believe the premise of this thing can be human, then you're not going to believe the romance story. It's like, sorry.
So did you emotionally connect with Short Circuit?
I saw that when I was a kid.
So no,
didn't
make an impression.
I just loved it and watched it.
Johnny Five,
but I don't remember it.
Oh man,
I had to record
Need input, Stephanie.
Do not disassemble.
No disassemble. So there's nothing like that in.
I don't know if our audience is young or old, but
I
don't know if they're gonna.
We're gonna get one email from someone who says, "I love that movie."
Yeah, exactly.
And that's gonna be the only.
Yeah. So we got to talk about Westworld more and the new things.
So basic idea is that you're like, the reason there's obsession with AI is that we like the idea, or there's a curiosity in our culture that wants to say that this could have all happened without God. And so like the way I like to see it is, if you dump a pile of like material down a staircase and it can fall down that staircase for eternity, at some point it will become Beethoven.
Yeah, exactly.
The dog.
That's the idea, right?
Exactly. And my fundamental premise is that humanity is transcendent, and the transcendent is exactly what most movies and stories are about trying to grasp and trying to understand. Good ones. I mean, if you got, whatever, the crappy garbage was just exploiting, whether it's sex or violence or whatever, sure. But I'm saying, most Hollywood mainstream movies, there's trying to find that transcendence, because that's what I think as human beings satisfies us in stories. And that's why you've got the big themes, whether it's self-sacrifice. A lot of movies have self-sacrifice, or they have friendship and family. Family is probably the number one if you want to make money in Hollywood, have it a movie and have your family a part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. I mean, I agree with that, right?
Yeah.
But those are all things that point towards transcendence, and I think that's what satisfies our souls or our spirits as humans who are watching stories.
So can you real quick, because I know that when I listen to podcasts a lot, and I was kind of new to story language and philosophy language, the term and the idea of transcendence, I had a tough time grasping what it meant.
Yeah,
I get it better now, but I think
good question.
Yeah, so why don't you just unpack the meaning of that?
So, and this comes down to some assumptions as well, as a Christian as I am. If
what? Oh, get out of here!
We are
fired.
We are
canceled.
We do have a culture that's obviously very varied, but one of the strong elements is materialism. Materialism is the belief that everything is reducible to matter. So there is no such thing as consciousness or spirit or soul or anything like that. And of course, materialism does drive a lot of people's stories as well as science, etc., because they're trying to reduce that down. And the Christian belief is that while we are a material universe, we also have a transcendent or immaterial essence to reality. And that immaterial is where we talk about things like our spirit or a soul, or in particular, humanity being created in the image of God. And of course, nowadays, with our evolutionary premise in most of society, whether it's materialism or not, there's the I'm losing my train of thought here. The evolution, the transcendence. So there's the negation of God in there, but there's still the desire to find meaning and purpose. Now, this is my Christian worldview speaking. I readily acknowledge that. I'm saying you're not going to be a satisfied human being if you believe everything's reducible to matter and there is no ultimate truth and ultimate spiritual reality. If you live that way, you're going to be ultimately an unsatisfied human being, because we have the desire. We are created in the image of God, meaning God has made us in a way that we relate. We rule over nature, over the earth, and we're supposed to be God's representatives, being creative in what we do and love and give and all that kind of stuff, fight evil. Those are all expressions of the identity of God that we carry. Yeah. And animals do not have that. Other things do not have that. And in that sense, we are transcendent. We are, the apex of creation. And of course, in today's world, that is white supremacy, or whatever it's human supremacy. How dare you say that you are superior to animals and superior to everything else? That's why we're polluting the planet and killing everybody because we think we're superior, and that causes evil, blah, 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 blah.
Which is its own form of superiority, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So these are the worldviews that are in conflict, what I'm saying? And so that transcendence, I think, is the longing in all of our human hearts for meaning, purpose, something beyond what we just see and experience in this world. It's not enough.
So would you say that our culture is transcendophobic?
Yeah.
Wow.
Although interestingly enough, I would say that this is where humanity's complex, and you can't reduce everything down to evolution or anything anyway. But I mean, and not everybody does. But leftism actually is a religion. And in a sense, I would argue that with the rise of socialism and leftism as an influential thought force in our society is evidence of the fact that when you kill gods, Nietzschean wise in society, you get rid of them. You don't get rid of that longing, and so you want to replace it. You have a God substitute. Right. So this is why leftists. It is a religion, it's like you've got the Holy Sacrament, scientists are the priests, and if you don't believe in global warming, then you are an evil sinner. It's the same language, it's the same scenario as any other religion. And my argument is that's because they know that even if they reject God and reject some higher meaning or purpose, they have to have some new created higher meaning or purpose. And that is
it's still frowned upon
control
to have
of the world.
Yeah, like no higher purpose or no meaning.
Yeah. I don't
even
think,
though, like, why? I mean, why? Why isn't it? I mean, if we are just evolved, robots, meat robots, like, why does it matter? what we do with our lives.
And what basically happens is if you really live consistently with that, if society lives consistently that way, then ultimately there will be a God, and that God of the culture will become the state. So that's what leftism is. It's the replacement of a Judeo-Christian transcendent God who gives us commands that we should follow regardless, with the state is God, and that's why they want to control it and use it to control everyone's lives. So they want to be the God themselves. And by the way, that's in a lot of movies.
Yeah, let's go back to movies here.
Yeah, there's sorry. Well, that's the philosophical thing, but that philosophy is embedded in a lot of movies. And I think there's a lot of good movies that will deal with things like this statism and show it for what it is.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of times these AI things, these AI stories or sci-fi movies are often dystopian movies, right? Whether it's Divergent or, all these what are the
like Hunger Games?
Yeah. Hunger Games. They're all dystopias where the government is evil because it controls and suppresses the individual. That's a good thing in my mind.
It amazes me when
it shows that's a good thing that they show it as evil.
I read Hunger Games to my boys, and we watched the movies.
Did you do all the voices?
And I did all the voices. Like, cool. I volunteered.
You have to do a lot of female voices.
I volunteer as tribute.
Yeah.
They dressed up, for the part and the whole deal. But
I would have done a little bit more like this.
Thanks, Ethan. That's great. But now I remember what I was going to say. No, but yeah, it amazed me that it was so anti-state, and a lot of dystopian fiction is like that. And then you'll get the left will often cite those, like, oh, we're the tributes fighting against the Capitol, and Trump is the, and it's like, you've missed the entire point. Like at the end of the last movie, spoiler alert, she kills the incoming the new president that's going to take over that was supposedly good. Because she says,
spoiler alert. Well, it wasn't a very good spoiler alert. We should put a little alert on it.
Oh, if you're going to listen to this program, give up spoiler alerts, because we got to talk about it. You've got to talk about these things to talk about.
I don't even care
about
spoiler alerts. Personally.
Well, but the whole thing is it's looking like it's going to be pro-state because they say, oh, this new state's coming in and these rulers are good. And then she kills the president who was going to take over. And she says, no, I just want to go live my life. And this new government's same as the old government. Right. And so it's this like anti-statist message at the end.
Yeah.
But again, you see the left identifying with these characters in this, and the same thing with like Harry Potter, where you've got the ministry that's all invaded and they're all bad, and they're fighting against it. But then the left, the resistance is always like, we're Harry Potter and Trump is Voldemort. And
I know. It's so
interesting
funny how they see it like the opposite of what it is. There was another example of another real recent movie where I can't remember what the name of the movie was, and the creator himself was saying that he saw Trump in it, and it was really more of a conservative movie, and he didn't even realize it. Shouldn't have said
that cultural appropriation,
and another good example of the dystopian stuff is Handmaid's Tale, right? Here's this dystopian future, and this is another element of what they tried to do is. I think that we all, at least Americans, all have that desire for freedom. That's one of our highest values. So the suppression of the individual is a bad thing. That's a good message, right? And so that's why you lend itself to statist tyranny oppresses the individual. But then what happens is they try to connect that statism with Christianity or with the view they hate.
Sure.
And thus you have Handmaid's Tale, where it's an absurdity of something that doesn't even remotely exist on any level or in any thought piece in any Christian world that you can imagine. And that is, Christians want to have a theocracy and take over the world and use women as their concubines and kill gays. And it's completely
Amen.
No, that's it.
Oh, you were saying that was bad.
Is that Islam? I thought that was Islam. Oh no, it's Christian. And that's the thing about it. It's so absurd that it's like, how could this be a popular show? Because it doesn't make sense on any level.
It's the fantasy of what they think.
Mike Pence is just cackling in the White House or whatever.
Meanwhile, there's no Christian who even argues that on any level anywhere. Meanwhile, Muslims all over the world are actually killing gays, actually having theocracies.
Not all Muslims, sir.
Not all, but
Hashtag.
but all over the world. And and it's like, so it actually is happening in Muslim cultures with Sharia law.
Right.
And
And it's bizarre.
And yet they're not the left is not worried about real evil. They're worried about their imagined evil that doesn't exist. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think you can see some of that on, I mean, we're going way off topic here, but or way off from sci-fi movies, but you can see that in Christianity too. I think there's you get very religious sects or fundamental sects that
sects
that
for clarifying.
Are we going to talk about sex and violence?
Yeah, we'll get
Christian
to it.
sects. There's lots of Christian sects.
That their boogeyman is whatever it is, but I think that's common. You create a boogeyman.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
you look like a way bigger hero fighting your created boogeyman than a real one, right?
Yeah.
Because you have a better chance of...
Every viewpoint on Earth has their extreme cultic versions. So absolutely.
All right. Well, we want to do a whole sci-fi episode someday. Well, that was a little dip of the toe into sci-fi. We want to talk about zombies next. You want to talk about the zombies?
No.
I'm
sick of them.
zombies.
I am a little sick of them too, but I'm curious to see what Brian has to say about them.
I love zombies. I used to hate zombie movies when I was a kid.
Okay.
Because they're so silly and gruesome, and just like, who cares about just people eating people? It's so stupid. But I think in more recent years, zombies have become, a very powerful, and they always have been. I just didn't recognize it as a young kid, but they are a very powerful social commentary. And
the zombies are Republicans.
Yes, of course.
They all have MAGA hats on.
Yes, because they want to eat people.
Very powerful.
So, I think one of the things that made it, one of the movies that made it really break through was the day, 28 days later. Oh, come on.
You're the movie guy, man.
I've got bad memory, man.
Strike one.
I have to have a list of notes even of movies to remember them. So
28. There was 28 days.
28 days.
Too bad Siri can't.
28 weeks.
And 28 weeks.
28
and
months.
Both of them were great.
There was months too.
I think there was a month, wasn't there?
Oh, and then of course Walking Dead, right?
28
and
years.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Walking Dead. Not anymore. I stopped after Negan was defeated.
I never got to Negan even.
Yeah. Well,
I stopped watching on the episode where he smashed the dude's face in with the bat.
Oh yeah.
I was like, this is just depressing now. So I just
Well, here's the deal. Horror, and again, we got a religious audience, I'm sure, and so
I'm sure all the movies you talked about so far are like really popular with the Christian crowd.
I think all Christians watch Walking Dead just secretly. Like,
yeah. And I do think that a lot of them watch a lot of things that they would not admit to.
Right.
Game of Thrones.
Right,
Oh. Okay. So anyway,
well, not anymore. We've disowned it after the finale.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
I didn't see the last season.
Yeah. But horror. And horror is something that I've actually talked around the country on at churches and such, because it's something that I actually really believe in. And the reason why I believe in it as a genre, even though a lot of Christians, and it's not for everyone, okay, but a lot of Christians have a problem with it, because, that's just violence and exploiting fear, and our God is not a God of fear, and all this kind of stuff. And the truth is, what they don't realize is that I've written a chapter on this in my book, Hollywood Worldviews, that you can purchase on Amazon.com. But seriously, I've written a whole article that's gone. You can probably find it free on the internet, actually, about sex and violence and horror movies in particular. Actually, an article on horror movies and why they are a powerful moral medium in today's postmodern society. When you have a society that rejects moral truth and is relativistic, well, what that means is, and of course rejects God, you have no foundation for morality. Oh yes, there's a shallow surface sense of morality, but ultimately there's no foundation for morality. Therefore, as society becomes more consistent with that value, it's going to become less moral, because it's going to start to realize, well, there is no morality, it's relative, so it's what I want it to be. And so horror movies, horror as a genre is great because it is a moral gut punch. When you watch a movie, yes, sometimes it's gruesome, etc., but you watching this and it really clarifies the reality of evil. You're watching this movie, you're not saying, oh, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. You're watching going, no, that guy is freaking evil and he deserves to die. It's an emotional, moral gut punch that affirms a moral value system in the world. It's also the medium where you can deal with religious values, Christian values, like demonic possession movies like The Conjuring, right? Or The Exorcism of Emily Rose and all those movies where you can deal with real demons and deal with Jesus Christ in a positive way that you can't in any other genre in Hollywood. So that's another.
That's true. It's interesting that in those kinds of movies like Emily Rose and such, it's like the Christian answer
written
is like
by a Christian,
directed by a Christian.
Yeah.
Scott Derrickson. Right?
Mm-hmm.
In those things, it's like the Christians are actually the good guys, and you kind of accept the Christian solution to the problem. I sometimes have a problem with those just because the solution is usually like a priest shows up and says something in Latin.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's not really how spiritual warfare works. But if you look at it in terms of like symbolism, it's probably more.
Or just having a positive picture of Christianity in movies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Right, the devil is real.
And the name of
answer
Jesus is a powerful thing.
And, in fact, the movie Devil by M. Night Shyamalan, which is a great movie.
The elevator one.
Yeah, the elevator one. And it's a small movie, but the principle is said in this woman's voice where she says, basically my grandma taught me that, if there's a devil, then there has to be a God. And I mean, that's a real, because if you believe that there's a real, true, incarnate evil, you have to believe there has to be a good, or there's no evil, right?
Because evil is the absence of
good. So horror movies do that. Zombie movies in particular, the reason why I love them is, in general, most of them, really, from The Walking Dead, Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead, which was hilarious, right? That changed the genre too. That helped bring more humor into horror movies in a positive way. And one of my personal favorites, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I love Jane Austen.
I saw that. I saw it in the theaters. I saw it in the theaters.
It is really good.
Huh. It was okay.
It is. It was. I mean, obviously, what it is, you have to accept it on that.
You got to accept it going in.
Yeah, but so anyway, but what I want to get to is, so the zombies. What makes zombies great is you'll notice, and this is true of a lot of some vampire movies too, like 30 Days of Night, which is one of my personal favorites, is that they wrestle with the issue of what makes us human, right? Because these are dead bodies who are animated, and you can kill them, and you know that you're justified in killing them. But why? They're not really human. Why? What is it that makes them different, etc.? And that points towards the spirit in man, right? But also, you watch them like 28 weeks later is a great example. They often and Walking Dead is basically people who are selfish and seek to survive, protect themselves, and that end up hurting others or getting killed. But those who tend to sacrifice to rescue others are the good people, and those are the ones that promote life. And that's the theme in Walking Dead for the first 5-6 seasons. And that is basically what I argue is that's the Christian ethic of self-sacrifice versus the evolutionary ethic of self-survival.
Right.
And so all zombie movies tend to pick that. And 28 Weeks Later is fantastic because that's the whole essence of the story, is this father who literally protected himself and let his wife die, but it turns out she didn't, right? But that is on his soul, and it destroys him because he tried to protect himself. And like I said, Walking Dead, it's the same sort of thing. The heroic people, the people that we cheer that are good people, are the people who are sacrificing themselves or risking their lives to save others, not protecting yourself to save yourself. That's evolutionary ethic versus Christian ethic. That's what I argue in general. Even if it doesn't promote Christianity,
Yeah. Because I always saw the zombie thing as like, I think people are very narcissistic and self-centered. And so they relate to the zombie genre because they feel that way out among other people. They feel like everyone else is kind of just this, everyone's the same.
Yeah.
And I'm different. And they're all just kind of like idiots, and I'm smart. And like, I just feel like it fits our very selfish view of ourselves and our lives. Like,
yeah.
I don't know, it's a very dark view of people.
Well, but I think, but this is good. I'm glad that you said that because it brings up a good point that, none of this is absolute, and there's good and bad things to each of these genres. Right. And what you bring out, I would totally agree that, too much of one thing can actually feed that negative side. And I think you make a very good point about that zombie movies, particularly people who are obsessed with, you see this kind of thing, they just love all the zombie movies. And I've watched some that are just so bad that I turn them off. So when I talk about zombie movies, I'm thinking more of the mainstream stuff rather than the exploitation stuff.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it can appeal to that narcissism. And I think that might be a good lead in for us to talk about the next movie, because that's, I think, one of the latest sort of big movies out is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
And it has, I think my argument is going to be that it has a really interesting, strong, good side to it and also a negative side to it.
Interesting.
If we can, I mean, forgive me, I'm like taking control of the Babylon Bee.
You got any thoughts,
because it's my secret desire.
I think people just like zombie movies because they get to see brains explode.
Yeah. Okay.
But you're operating on a whole other level. You're playing 4D chess here, and me and Ethan are playing 2D tiddlywinks.
Okay. But here's the point about art / storytelling / movies, right? It's all a part of the same thing. The beauty and power of art, and I write about this in my books, The Imagination of God and God Against the Gods. But the power of storytelling, and in Hollywood worldviews, the power of art is precisely that. It combines both the entertaining aspect. Right. Of course, people don't say, I don't think people want to go see zombie movies because I want to see the ethic of self-sacrifice versus no, I agree. And there's something that's kind of cool about like, hey, you can kill people and you're not guilty but also just being chased. I love chase movies. I love movies where the good guy is being hunted by bad guys and he has to take them all down. So there is definitely, on the surface, we are drawn to the entertaining elements of it. Absolutely. And that's a whole nother level.
Well, I wasn't making a deep point there, but you brought it out.
However, but me as the philosophical artist that I am, I also believe that those things draw us, but then I think the things that make them powerful and meaningful and, big hits, whether it's Shaun of the Dead or Walking Dead, is that they're not just exploitation vehicles of gore and blood and violence. They are actually wrestling with meaningful human relationships and the apocalyptic stories. Their purpose is for us to struggle or wrestle and figure out what makes civilization, right? What makes civilization, because when it's lost, how do you gain it back? And what do we end up in as tribal societies? Book of Eli is a fantastic example of that with Denzel Washington. And, and that movie is literally about what is the foundation of civilization, because he's protecting the Bible and getting it to the coast so that they can keep books that have been lost that can rebuild civilization. That's literally what it's about. And that's what I argue most apocalyptic stories are about, even if people don't think of that consciously.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out what was lost that went all wrong.
Yeah. And I'm big on, you don't have to know this consciously for it to be effective. I speak as an artist. I know what we do. You guys are artists too. You know that we craft that stuff in there, whether or not they're going to be aware of it. We believe it affects them because the very nature of storytelling in movies and series is itself a means of persuading people in the way that we see the world.
Yeah, and this is a very deep topic too, but I think that when you create a story, we like to think especially if you're secular, think that you're just creating a thing out of thin air. But I think that we tend to believe that you're finding something, that you're finding a truth. And that's why you can try to write a story that doesn't ring true with your soul or with the human soul, and it won't really work. And so I think a lot of people that want to write a story that is disconnected from the idea that we're transcendent and that there's meaning doesn't ever work, because to write a story you're tapping into something deeper than just playing around with words on a keyboard.
And, it's not too off topic. It's not the same genre, but a good example of that in play is the I'm trying to get on Netflix, and there's a new movie, Netflix original, that is a love story, like a romance, a romantic comedy. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about this if I can't find it.
Zombie love story?
No, it's not. But it's
wasn't there one that came out like a zombie love story movie?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which I just did not want to see that. I already saw the one with the fish man, and I'm like, I don't want to see people.
I forget what it was called.
I
have it on Blu-ray, and I don't know what it's called.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Huh.
My wife liked it.
So you liked it?
My wife liked it.
Oh.
Thought it was okay.
Did they make out?
Probably.
I blew it. I brought up a topic that I can't find the example of a freaking movie but it was this idea, what you were saying about how if it doesn't ring true and if it doesn't connect with our humanity, so a story, it's some love story, some Asian love story on Netflix. And it's a feminist parable, and as I was watching, I enjoy feminist movies if they're well done. But so here's, when you tell a story, the hero, the protagonist, this is part of storytelling. The protagonist is the one we cheer when we root for, right? But that protagonist has to have something wrong about the way they see the world. That's what's causing some of their problems, as well as the external villain, that they have to battle. But as they fight the villain, they're losing and they fail because they don't realize there's something inside of them they have to change and become a better person. And when they do that, then they have the victory over themselves that they can then face the villain and win the villain. That's sort of the standard. Yeah. And that's in romantic comedies. That's in everything. And so I was watching this as I was trying to find this story. I can't remember what it's called. It's a real boring title too. That's why it's very forgettable. But I remember it's watching it and thinking, and it's this feminist story. So it's the story of this woman, and she wants to have everything, and have love and be successful career, and it's making that argument that we can have everything, all that kind of stuff. But it's so interesting is that by the end of the story, the man that she was in love with, he's the one who has to change and learn something's wrong with him so that he can fit into her life better and she can move on. And what's so hilarious about that is not because it should be the other way around because she's a woman. No, whoever your hero is the one who has to learn. Yeah. So if the hero was a man, I would say he has to learn something's wrong with him. So he's made worthy of the woman. But in this case, because it's feminism is the ideology, they have to stick to that. It's got to be the man who changes. And my point was, I'm watching the story. It's like completely unsatisfying because I'm supposed to be rooting for this woman, but she's not the one who has to change. And it was very, very unsatisfying as a story. And so that's why I'm saying, like, whatever you're going to tell you, the story itself it embodies the persuasion in a way, right? Because you're rooting for the hero, and whatever flaw the hero has is what we also learn about ourselves. So when the hero learns by the end of the story what they have to better in themselves, Luke must realize that he is the savior, the one, the chosen one, whatever. But, by the end of the story, as the hero learns and then overcomes his ultimate problem, then we too will be with him in that journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I staying too philosophical? Let's talk more about movies.
No, I mean, we're getting philosophical about movies.
That's the foundation. That's the whole idea,
of movies, right? Yeah, they're all philosophy.
We just want our homeschool audience to know that Luke is not a reference to the book in the Bible. It's a character in a franchise called Star Wars.
Yeah. Okay.
We actually got angry hate mail when we kept doing that homeschool reference. Oh yeah. Remember, some guys like, please stop doing the homeschool call out.
Homeschool jokes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
We love you, homeschool people.
We love you, homeschoolers.
All right, yeah, let's, that's the thing. This is our first episode talking movies, and there's so much you could talk about.
Am I getting too serious for the Babylon Bee?
No, throw a joke in at random if you can. Or usually Kyle is able to, he's pretty good at throwing jokes in, but you talk really fast, so. And Kyle always waits for 3 seconds of silence before he tells a joke, so that's a problem.
I'm
knock knock. No.
Okay, so anyway, what was I saying?
All right.
Sorry, I'm just, like I said, I listen to podcasts at 1.5, so I think I've started talking that way.
It's fine. We'll try the next one. We'll see how it goes. All right. We figured that it'd be good to talk about one new movie that's actually in theaters right now, and so we're gonna do one that Kyle hasn't seen. So Kyle's gonna be even quieter in this portion, probably.
I'll go ahead and give my review right now. Too much blood.
Yeah.
Is there blood? We're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, by the way.
Yes, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and so spoiler. We've already made a spoiler alert.
Major spoiler alert. I'm going to explain the essence of it. So too bad. But listen, you don't want to go see it anyway. Probably.
No. Too much blood.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, I don't really know why I saw that. Because I heard everybody said it was so good.
Yeah, exactly. Now here's what I'm going to argue is I actually think I have a love-hate relationship with Tarantino. A lot of his movies I just think are just garbage and stupid. I think Pulp Fiction was a masterpiece. Okay, so I admit that. But then a lot of them in between, terrible. Anyway, I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which the premise is that Leonardo DiCaprio plays in, I think it's like, in the 60s, around the time of the Manson murders.
Yeah, it's like around
late 60s.
59 69 probably.
Yeah, okay.
Late 60s, yep.
So, and he's a aging star, whatever. He's failing, and he's struggling with his whole identity. Meanwhile, Brad Pitt plays the stuntman, his stunt double, who is just a cool guy, man. And he's not burdened by all that garbage. And he's actually a good guy. And he's helping Leonardo to find his way a little bit in life. So that's kind of the premise of it. Well, they happen to live next door to Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski.
CeeLo Lane, where the murders happen.
So he's a fictional character.
Or CeeLo Drive.
DiCaprio is a fictional character. So that's a fictional story, And the thing is this. Tarantino has done this for a couple movies now. He did this in the Inglourious Basterds too. It's the genre that is called alternative history. In other words, if things happen differently, here's what it might have been. Now that's an interesting genre. It's worthy of creativity, etc. So what he does is he says, he says, well, how might the Manson murderers have occurred or not occurred if these kind of characters had interacted in that scenario, and like I said, Inglourious Basterds was, you got to see Hitler actually get killed by guys, and was he flamed or whatever, shot, and so here's the thing, that's what
classic movie.
Yeah,
I've never seen it. I have no idea.
So first of all, I have to say, number one is that it is long and a little boring, quite boring at times. Way too many shots of close-ups of people's feet walking. I don't know why. A lot of shots of people's feet walking. And secondly, he makes a major mistake of first-year filmmakers make, and I did it in my first film, is he has long, uninteresting driving sequences so that he can play his favorite music over the soundtrack, right? Yeah. He does this, and it's just like,
I don't see anything wrong with that. I do that in my real life. Like I'll drive around the block a couple times.
I know.
So my favorite DC Talk track can finish.
But in movies,
song ends right as you pull
in. But in movies, 3 or 4 times is pretty boring.
I like the cool movie trick where you hear the music and then they turn off the car and the music turns off and you go, oh, they were listening to it.
Yeah.
See, tiddlywinks over here.
Or when they just play, he has the headphones on and you just hear it in the little slightly in the background, but then it becomes the soundtrack. Bah, 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 bah.
When you become him.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's
Baby Driver.
Good on that. Yeah.
I'm just gonna shout the names of movies out to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
All right. So here's the premise. It's like, okay, so you've got these two characters who interact, and basically they end up stopping the Manson murders because the first people that they go to kill, Tex Watson and his couple of girls, ends up being Brad Pitt and DiCaprio, right? And so it doesn't end up occurring. And what the value of this is, the good side is, it's catharsis. In other words, you're watching this movie, and if you know anything about the horrible brutality of the Manson murders and what depths of evil people can go, that's the whole point of that, right? But he shows them not being killed, and the good guys just completely maul and
destroy them.
No, but it's self-defense.
Is there blood?
There is some blood.
It isn't told,
but not as much as most Tarantino movies.
Okay,
it's as if Brad Pitt's character knows what she would have done, like the way that he kills that girl.
Yeah.
He's basically just smashing her face into everything in the house. It almost becomes cartoonish.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It gets very silly because everything just keeps changing shots, bashing her here, bashing her there.
So the catharsis is, as a viewer, you're like, you have this sense of justice. They really got their just desserts. Because we know those are evil people who did really great evil, and we get to see what didn't get to happen, which is they get their just desserts. That's called catharsis, right? And there's a certain value to that I don't deny. And also, I think it's ultimately a conservative value because you've got these guys who stand up, use guns, fight back. And this is very much a thing in society that I think is ultimately a conservative value, is to defend yourself and to the death, right? So that's the good side. And I have conservative friends who said, Ann and Phelim, from the Ann and Phelim podcast, they argued that it was very conservative, and I'm like, okay, I can see that, but here's the downside, in my opinion, and it's the downside of that fits into today's narrative, and that is, I think when it comes to, look, whenever you're telling a movie, you're fictionalizing, even if you're telling this true story. No problem with that. I get that. You fictionalized them. But with the most important things of history, like these people were really brutally murdered, what happened? If you make that the opposite, what you're doing is you're feeding into this leftist narrative of facts don't matter. What matters is our feelings. And this is why they don't even...
You need to say that really fast, like Ben Shapiro does.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
There you go.
And so see what I'm saying is like, they don't care what really happens, because what's satisfying to me is to see the Manson murderers get their due.
Yeah.
But you see, the danger of that is this is what's happening all over now. The Russian hoax has been proven as a hoax, but the media and the leftists still go with the narrative because the narrative feels better to them. It just
feels better to go with it,
right?
Yeah.
And that's happening on the Brett Kavanaugh. Complete fraud against him. Complete fraud, libel, slander, been proven to be false, but they're still sticking to the narrative. They're still saying, Ferguson, it's like the narrative is that, a cop killed an unarmed man. No, actually, it was justifiable homicide of the guy who was trying to kill him. And it's like, but they don't care because they stick with, you see what I'm saying? So I think that's destroying our culture from the inside out because of the denial of the most important facts.
Right.
And that's the danger I see in the movie. Does that make sense?
No, totally. That is one of the most crazy things about some of these stories. Like, getting into the facts makes you seem like, are you being a bigot because you're getting into the facts?
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. It's really weird. Like, we can't just talk about the actual facts of what happened. Like, if you take the stance that maybe the narrative isn't true, immediately you're,
Yeah.
If we really wanted it to be a conservative movie, we could build a wall around Manson.
Here you go.
There you go.
He's just bumping into
and just
walls.
he keeps like a 10 foot by 10 foot area.
Just writing piggy everywhere.
Yeah.
Just eating his
Well,
own.
actually, they lived in a pretty rich area. They already had fences. They literally did in the movie. They had fences.
Oh, yeah, they were on
around.
Spawn Ranch, right? So
because of course all Hollywood hypocrites are like that. They're against the wall, but they have walls around their mansions,
huge
don't they?
Walls and fences everywhere.
Yeah.
With a moat.
The hypocrisy is on
Sharks, laser eyes.
Yes.
All right, so for our main topic, we're going to get into anti-Christian bias in Hollywood. So hold your horses.
And now, the Babylon Bees topic of the week.
Well, there's kind of this narrative among Christians and conservatives that Hollywood is very anti-them. And that Hollywood is in this liberal bubble. And, I don't know, that all the narratives of Hollywood films are designed to kind of oppress conservatives. And I think it comes off a little annoying at times, right? Like, conservatives, this movie hates
snowflakey.
Conservative snowflakes.
Yeah. And so I was just kind of wondering, you're someone who's there. We're very close, but I think we live just outside the bubble, right?
I've been in the belly a little bit.
You've been there.
Oh, yeah, more than I have, probably. Yeah.
There's a literal bubble.
I think
it's a big plexiglass dome.
I think most people that work in Hollywood feel like they're outside of it because it's such an in thing. It's just like, it's a
good way to put it.
It's like when you're in junior high and there's the kids who are the in crowd, and there's only a few that really are in, and you wonder they're always the ones that end up being train wrecks later in life.
Yeah.
Because they hit their peak when they're 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So...
Because you're always breaking in. Even if you've just had a movie, you're trying to break in with the next movie because you never know.
Like, you've written a movie... Like, I remember when I first met you, you've written a movie with Kiefer Sutherland starring in it.
To End All Wars, which is available on Amazon. And it is
a great movie. It's a great
one
movie.
of the classics that Christians love.
Yeah, it's a great Christian movie for sure. But yeah, so it's funny. Just that whole idea. That you had that happen and you still feel like you're breaking in.
In fact, within the year, I just had that first movie made and I was under this illusion that like, now I've broken in and now I'm going to get all this work. And I literally had to go back to pounding on doors, and it was just very disheartening. That was a time in my life where I did deal with depression because it was just such a shock to the system.
Yeah.
Until I just accepted, no, that's how it is. And I heard other more famous people, more successful people than me saying the same thing after every movie. I'm not sure I'm even going to make another movie.
Yeah.
So I just accepted it and moved on.
Anyway,
who cares about that?
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Who cares about that? You can cut that.
But just the
later.
idea that Hollywood feels like an in crowd.
Oh yeah, the in crowd thing. Yeah.
And almost everybody feels like an outsider, probably.
So my question is it real? And How bad is it?
What's the evidence?
To what extent?
And
should Christians be worried about it? And how do we, I mean, if there's Christian artists and filmmakers in Hollywood, how do,
Well, there are, look.
I mean, we know there's one.
Yeah, and I think should we look at it as war? Like, I should boycott this movie.
Yeah,
that's
a good point.
or that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
too.
it's a big topic.
Do you subvert the system and inject your values into secular films? Do you make Christian films? What's.
Well, look, I've written a lot on my blog post at Godawa.com.
Available on Amazon.
Yes, but no, seriously, I'm kind of proud of my movie posts because I do go in depth in the movies and stuff, and not as much as I used to, but there are some recent ones on there. We'll talk about The Boys, number one. But first of all, try to tell people Hollywood is not monolithic. It's not all one thing. And there are a lot of, when I first came out here 25 years ago or something, there was like one or two Christian ministries that actually reached out to content creators like writers, directors, producers, and even actors. Mm-hmm. And, I knew of there must have been several hundred Christians in the industry, working to try to just, to be an influence into whatever, tell our stories, right? Nothing subversive. It's just, we love movies and want to tell stories. Now, 25 years later, there's thousands of Christians that I've seen and I've known, and dozens of Christian ministries reaching content creators, et cetera, et cetera. And so in one sense, there's, a lot more Christians, and we are infiltrating it to some degree. But there's also a large degree in which we have been compromised and a lot of them have become like Hollywood leftists. And so their faith has been nullified in some ways. And there are a lot of people I can tell you, I know people and myself, I've lost work because they found out I was a Christian. It has nothing to do with who I am or anything. Just they finding out I was a Christian or finding out you're a conservative. And when I first came there, my impression was it was worse to be a Republican than a Christian. They still hated both, but it seemed to, and that was like even 15 years ago.
Well, because people can identify as like liberal Christians or leftist Christians. Yeah. And that probably gets some of the Christians stink off you.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you know that you lost work because you were a Christian? Did they say, oh, you're a Christian?
This is in a time when they had said it. They just told us.
Really?
It's like, really? Wow. I mean, but we aren't the kind of people also who necessarily go around suing people, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is some years back. So, I'm more in the independent side of Hollywood. It's not like I'm in with big studios and stuff like that. So, and partly, because I work with people who have the same vision and stuff, right? So, but nevertheless, yeah. So I like to tell people there is definitely anti-Christian bias in a lot of movies, and I write about them on my blog. Mm-hmm. But I also write that there's a lot of positive. I have to admit, I'm surprised sometimes, honestly, at how conservative some movies can be. Like the Marvel universe is actually quite conservative until near the end now. Obviously, they're turning woke, but there's a lot of...
it lost me when Captain Marvel cut her hair into the... she cut her hair into kind of like the feminist comb over. Yeah. And it's kind of a Donald Trump style haircut.
The Donald Trump hairdo is good on feminist.
Yeah. So I'm surprised, and I actually like to try to point out whenever I see a movie that comes out that actually has some surprisingly, conservative values in it that comes out of Hollywood. And I admit, I'm even saying I'm surprised. I'm trying to see if I can find some examples of that, but, or even very pro-Christianity. I have lists that I keep where I show how, like, let me give an example where true stories wherein the Christianity of the characters is crucial to their story / lives. It's not just, they believe in something. So, we all realize that you can't say everything in a story. You need to focus, but we're all about identity, right? Well, if a gay person's identity is their sexuality is everything they are, well, then so it is for a Christian as well, but they cut it out and they make them into secular stories where they completely, and that is like the worst insult of all. Tolkien was the latest one.
The autobiography movie.
They cut out his Catholicism.
Now, sure, they might have one moment where they see him praying or something like that, but I mean, they don't show how important it is to the story as well.
As integral to his works.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Wrinkle in Time took out the Christianity, made it into New Age. Hidden Figures.
Yeah, but they added Oprah.
That's true. So they added a new God.
Bonus.
That makes up for God, right?
Yeah. Hidden Figures. Remember the one about the black women during the space program, which was a fantastic movie. Nothing about their faith. They were all staunch, strong Christian women. That was part of their story, right? The Finest Hour is the one about the Sea Rescue with Chris Pine. It's a great movie, by the way. Finest Hours. The Vow. Unbroken. The one the one about the guy. Oh my gosh, the very essence of what makes it a great story was his forgiveness. Right? Yeah. Walk the Line, Johnny Cash, right? They all, maybe they'll choose a part of their life when faith wasn't there, so they're being, quote, authentic. But in truth, they should
do a movie about Jesus where they cut out his Jewish faith.
And make him less religious.
Maybe they have already. I'm trying to think.
They probably have. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt. But you see, my point is that I trumpet that stuff all the time. But then also there are times where pro-life movies, and I'm not going to do the independent ones like Room, which was the one that made Brie Larson famous. It's like amazing, and that's a movie that is dealing with the one argument that pro-abortion, pro-death people really, it's like, well, what if she was raped and the child was the product of rape? And this one shows that no, even those children are worthy of living. And that's a Hollywood movie. I'm like, wow, that's amazing, So that kind of stuff happens, and I try to make it my my purpose to point those out, because I do want to promote the good. Another good example is Bohemian Rhapsody. Okay.
I never saw that one.
What?
Yeah, what?
Wait, what? Huh? Freddie Mercury? Yeah, actually, I would say that's an example of a movie where it unwittingly shows that here was a man who was unfaithful to a woman that he loved. And that is the source of all of his misery and unhappiness. And there was a sense in which it unwittingly showed the value of monogamy and heterosexual monogamy as well, right? Oh, Captain Panther. That was a classic, thing where it's like Captain Panther. Can I say Captain Panther?
You did say Captain Panther.
I was looking at Captain America Civil War.
And I was like I was physically like ill. I was starting to get physically ill.
Who's Captain Panther?
So Black Panther, right? So here you have like Black Panther himself is like Donald Trump, man. I mean, he's like, we're going to keep the wall around our city.
That was pretty incredible.
We're keeping him out. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like, and he's the hero, and that's freaking Donald Trump,
then, people were actually mad about it because halfway through the movie, they posed that question, like, should we send arms and funds to revolutionary groups like communist, like Antifa type groups around the world to help Black people rise up and fight against the governments? And the answer in the end of the movie is no. We're going to share knowledge, and that's kind of how they solve the problem, which is interesting.
So I try to point those out because I really can't
see when you start talking about a Marvel movie, then I can jump in.
Okay, then I have to step back a little bit. I'm going to be talking less then because I can't keep up with that as much. I enjoy some of the Marvel, but I can talk you under the rug about Daredevil though. But and then of course you've got Hacksaw Ridge, which is Mel Gibson. Of course, any Mel Gibson movie is going to be awesome and with great values and conservative values.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that
his personal life maybe.
That's the kind of stuff that that interests me is when it's. I mean, I would call that a Christian movie.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not what we think of as a Christian movie, like God's Not Dead or something.
Exactly.
Everybody's a 2D caricature of atheists and Christians and stuff.
Exactly. And by the way, I'm proud to say that my movie To End All Wars I think is in that category with Hacksaw Ridge because it's definitely not a Christian movie, but it's a movie that has Christianity in it because it was part of the story, right?
Yeah.
And that's
very integral to it.
And that was my goal to do that. But Hacksaw Ridge was fantastic because here you've got this true story, World War II, this kid who's a Seventh-day Adventist and a pacifist, and he ends up going into war, and he ends up saving an unbelievable amount of guys on the field, and he won't carry a gun, right? But what's so ironic is at the same time, it also shows that his pacifism really is contradictory, unlivable, because he's being protected by guys with guns, right?
Yeah.
But I think Gibson meant to make that point, meant to show that. Yet there's a beautiful balance of it. They can work together, but he does it in the name of Christ. But then the other guys make good points that make him question his own, values as well, to realize that no, if we don't stand up and fight evil will vanquish us, that kind of thing, things like that.
Yeah.
So those are some examples to at least set the page.
Right. Okay. So not to say that like Hollywood doesn't see a Christian character in their script and go, get rid of him. Probably depends on the director and everything. I mean,
yeah, there is.
Once again, it's so complicated.
Yes, there is a concerted effort. There is a significant amount of them who do. Like I've heard cases and inside stories where that's actually happens. In fact, Doug Nicolle, our friend, he sells his creature tech, and it's all about like creation scientist or whatever versus evolution and stuff. And one of the first things they say is, well, can we cut out the religion stuff? It's and sometimes it's because they just hate Christianity. Sometimes it's because they literally are so in a bubble that they think, well, if we have that will be offensive to people and we won't make money. They literally think it will be. Whereas it's the exact opposite. More people will see it because there are more people who are positive towards that than are not, right?
Yeah.
So it's their own ignorance that causes them to make those choices. But sometimes it's a very deliberate hate campaign, such as The Boys.
Okay.
Is that good? Was that good?
That was a
transition.
Yeah.
Boom, boom.
Sorry if I'm taking control. I don't mean to be. I'm just.
You got a lot in your mind. We're here to, bounce off.
So is this, you said,
I've only watched me again.
I've only watched the first episode. No. So
you were canceled.
So here's the thing. I do enjoy superheroes. That's a whole nother topic of philosophical discussion. I think that superheroes, I'm not intrinsically against them, but I do think they're very dangerous because they become God substitutes as well. And it's very obvious that they're like the Greek gods and stuff. Right. So, but that doesn't make them intrinsically wrong because Superman was originally a myth that pointed towards a Christ figure. The original Superman was a classic Christ story. So I love that. And I think that's good. There's a lot of grand sacrifice in a lot of these stories. Self-sacrifice is a dominant ethic in hero stories. So that's good. The danger is that when you have a godless society, they become the gods that just replace that in people's lives. But I still enjoy them. And so The Boys comes on Amazon. And I'm interested in this because I also think the premise of The Boys is, what if we have superheroes in the world, but they were really, a lot of times they're a little bit too, not goody two shoes, but like impossibly good people, too altruistic. They're not real human beings who are selfish. Well, what if normal people had these powers, and there's various versions of selfish addicts or whatever,
like huge celebrities, and they'd be living it up and
exactly and
corporate.
In truth, and so in other words, it's these superheroes who become celebrities, but they're narcissists, they're selfish, and they start to exploit it and they hurt people. It's actually an interesting premise. I love the premise.
Well, isn't that the premise of a lot of superhero things though? But throughout the character arc, they actually overcome that impulse.
Yeah, sure.
Did you see Shazam?
Yeah.
Remember in Shazam, he wants to go make money off his power, and he's just very selfish. And part of the story arc is,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But The Boys though is to the extreme, and the superheroes.
But are they learning a lesson? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is there?
Well, the premise is that they ultimately will. You think they're going to.
The superheroes are kind of. I only saw the first episode. It seems like they're kind of almost the villains.
Essentially, that's, as you're watching it, that's what you kind of get the impression is. It's like, let's make the superheroes. They're still heroes in society, but let's make them emotionally the villains.
Selfish, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of it's irony, and again, I have no problem with that, because what you end up seeing is, you got superheroes who are worried about their Twitter accounts and their social media value and stuff. And basically what it is it's a metaphor for Hollywood celebrities. Because now the difference is Hollywood celebrities only think they're saving the world. But nevertheless, no, I'm telling you, you watch this and you're like going, this is Harvey Weinstein's Hollywood, because for example, one of the first things that happens, so it focuses on one of the protagonists is a female called Starlight. She has a starlight power. Anyway, she gets inducted into the inner circle of these big guys, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the very first thing, she meets one of the fish guys or whatever. Yeah. And the very first thing he does is he makes her engage in sexual acts with him, or he's going to tell them that she's not worthy to be on the team, that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh, that's a perfect metaphor for celebrity culture in general. And she becomes disillusioned because she thought it was all about this glory of being heroes and saving the world and stuff. And she realizes this. I think that's great. It's all good. It's cynical a bit, but and it also shows like, well, what if superheroes are so vainglorious that they become irresponsible and sloppy and hurt people think about it. We see these movies where the cities are destroyed by the good guys, but what about all those people being killed because
Man
of that,
of
right?
Steel.
This is all good in and of itself, but then by the 5th episode there's these hints. You're getting these hints, like one of the superheroes in the background is being interviewed and he says, well, yes, everyone should be able to have guns. Everyone should be able to have guns so they can protect themselves and stuff, basically making a conservative argument, which my first reaction, like, that doesn't fit this paradigm, because these are superheroes who are saying, let us take care of it. Let us save you. It would be more consistent if they were for gun control. So I start, okay, so this is going to be the anti-conservative bias. It's leaking in, but it's not that bad. It's tolerable, like the Tick. Tick is the same thing. It's funny, but it's got this little anti-conservative jabs occasionally. But then by the 5th episode, all of a sudden you find out one of them is a stretch guy. He's an evangelical Christian who's preaching at this Christian conference called the Believe Expo. And the Starlight girl, she has a Christian past. She goes there and it's literally like a Christian conference where they're singing the Christian contemporary music. And it's,
how do they pull it off?
It's all the typical cliches and stereotypes of Christians, but in particular, they want to bring out that it's homophobic. And it mocks virginity, right? And it's all about this girl, and it's also fraudulent. And the guy who's the televangelist preacher, who's a stretch guy, he's actually a closet homosexual who's preaching against homosexuality because he's really it's all the cliches.
Every
that
cliche,
you see.
man. It's like grab bag.
I like how that's always the insult. Like,
you're really just secret
you're
homosexuals.
gay. Yeah. It's like, is that an insult? Because
let's tell a story where it's like all these anti-Christians are actually secular atheists are actually secret Christians. And, you know what I mean? Do the opposite, right? Okay, so and again, to me, what struck me was not that they're attacking Christians, because of course the whole thing, and it just completely attacks Christianity, and it's all a caricature. We would agree that what was going on there was wrong, right? But this is to them, this is what Christianity is. But my point is that how can you possibly link Christianity, because it's all about worshiping these people as conservative heroes? I think, the preacher superhero guy's on stage and says something. He literally uses Bush's words at 9/11. We were attacked. So we must attack the foreign nations who are our enemies, or something like that. But I found out it was literally a quote from Bush. So this is the kind of stuff.
That's real subtle.
Yeah, that's real.
Real good movie making right there. Very artistic.
But my point was not that they attack Christians, because they do that all the time. It was that it's like saying Harvey Weinstein's world is because of Christianity. It's like these Christians are the ones that caused the Harvey Weinstein world. And I'm like, really?
Yeah.
This is what you have to do to make yourself feel better. It's so absurd.
So are we being snowflakes for being offended?
No, I'm not being outraged. I'm just laughing. This is absurd. It's Babylon Bee material.
Is the offense more, okay, they're attacking us, I don't like that, or is it
bogus?
It's an unfair attack and it feels shoehorned in there just because.
Yeah, my argument is that it's
thematically inconsistent with the rest of the.
Yeah, like I'm not about being outraged. To me, it is more the absurdity of the connection. Like, okay, go ahead and attack Christians because you do that, or have a caricature of Christianity, fine. But to say that it is the thing, link it to the Hollywood celebrity culture is completely absurd. And all that says to me is that's bad storytelling. I mean, that's the point where I'm going like, this is so unsatisfying. Even if I wasn't a Christian, I would go, this is absurd and has no connection at all. Oh, they're clearly ideologues who are just full of hatred, trying to promote their hatred.
Yeah, it's like when I watch a Christian movie and they make a caricature of an atheist, and I go,
yes,
and I go,
God's not dead,
and I'm like, I'm just cringing. I'm like, this is unfair to atheists. I'm not an atheist, but I'm offended by it because it's.
I totally agree. In fact, I make the argument in my blog post several times where it's like, okay, now we need to have another category of bad atheist movie. I'll accept the bad Christian movie, and I hate them too. But what about bad atheist movies, which are preachy and show all the Christians as bad and atheists are good.
Yeah.
And, you got that in the movie, the Exodus movie, the Noah movie, right? It's like, okay, now let's have bad atheist movies because they're doing just as bad.
Did you see Paul with the alien?
Oh,
kind of flew under the radar. So terrible.
I did, yeah.
That was a bad atheist movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel you almost expect them to have an altar call at the end where they invite you to come up and accept Richard Dawkins
or give up your faith.
Yeah.
Come up and give up your faith. Yeah. Yeah. So in these cases, I'm more like, come on, your ideology is just making bad stories and absurd. This isn't satisfying, In fact, give me a really good, subtle. I've often made the arguments like I actually appreciate watching movies that I don't agree with, that make good points. And, like feminism is a classic example. I mean, some of my, some of the more interesting movies are actually feminist movies,
like Mean Girls.
Yeah, Mean Girls. Or what we talked about, did we talk about Mad Max? No, we didn't, did we?
Mad Max?
Mad Max? Oh, that's the next episode.
Mad Max.
Mad Max.
Did you say Mad Rax?
Mad Max.
That's a different feminist movie.
Mad Men, the series. You guys ever see that?
Yeah.
Classic. I loved it. But I admit that it's like, okay, yeah, these are some of the stereotypes of the 50s, but they're partly true. And I won't deny that.
Yeah.
But I also love that world. It was fascinating.
When it's done in an interesting way that doesn't feel that like on the nose.
Yes.
I think I respect the argument more.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying. And I'm willing to love those and enjoy those much more so.
Yeah, I thought just on the topic of the bias against Christian bias in Hollywood, I was always interested in and I don't know if this is true anymore, but I remember hearing that the PG and PG-13 movies make the most money, by far.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing a graph or something that showed that R-rated movies were like they made way more of them, or something like that. It was a period of time.
Oh, right.
Just the idea that despite the loss of money, there was and I don't know if that's still true or not, because movies have changed to where like PG-13, like almost everything wedges itself. Even It is PG-13. Yeah. So I think it has. I mean, do you know anything about that?
It is PG-13?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I swear it's
It Part 1?
I believe. Let's see.
I dispute this. Fact check.
Huh.
Is It PG-13?
Someone look it up on Snopes.
So you're wondering does that have something to do with
it kind of showed a bias
that
like
they don't
even
care.
though
They don't care about making money even.
Well, no, only that there's an ideological a desire to put trashier stuff or to go for the violent and the shocking stuff, even though they would make more money if they made nothing but family films.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I think it is? Honestly, it's not the executives. The executives, a lot of times they are more money driven. They really are. But it's the content creators. It's the writers. Those are the people that like, well, yeah, they're not satisfied with that stuff. They want to push the envelope. They want to change society, and they realize you've got to do it subtly and you've got to do it step by step.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that writers and directors, they are deliberately pushing the envelope because they don't agree with the typical family values or whatever, and they want kids to be able to watch more. I mean, how else can you have a society that is now like talking about and allowing like child drag queens?
Yeah.
Like, how is that allowed? But yet it's accepted, I mean, obviously it's debated, but my point is that would never have been debated years ago because it's obviously evil and it's child abuse and pederasty.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, no, actually these children may feel like it's their identity. It's like, wow, they've come a long way. So yeah.
When you set something up as your guiding principle, like identity politics.
Yeah.
Then it just opens a gate to.
Oh, I'm wrong.
Accept
I
told you seeing that it was PG-13.
Well,
What was the one? There was a horror movie that came out that was PG-13.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
There's a lot more PG-13 movies coming out.
Yeah.
I'm excited. It Part 2 comes out in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. I love that movie.
That first movie was
good.
great. Yeah. Best Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Well, maybe The
It's a
Shining.
good argument. Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, we should wrap this up. This has been a beefy episode with lots of thoughts, and
let's move on to hate mail.
I really miss Adam Ford.
I miss Adam Ford too. We all miss Adam Ford.
don't we all? He's rolling in his grave right now.
Rolling in his grave.
Future, he's not dead.
All right, so we got some hate mail this week. This is from someone who was mad at us during the Kavanaugh hearings.
And this is a classic. We're going back to the classic.
We're going to the classic.
Archives.
And the weird thing is they're mad that we're making fun of Kavanaugh, but I don't know that we did much.
I'm trying to think of what we
might have done one or two that pushed back at Kavanaugh a little bit, just, made some lighthearted fun of him.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But I don't know. Or maybe they just took it the wrong way. Anyway, this is what they say.
It's very likely.
The Babylon Bee dude? Seriously?
He seems this one dude, or is he saying...
It just says the Babylon Bee dude, no comma.
Babylon Bee dude.
The Babylon Bee dude. Seriously, I'm all for jokes and make fun of everyone. Even racist jokes.
All right.
But this is...
He's open-minded. He likes racist jokes.
But this is insensitive and immature, so much so that I want to speak to your pastor.
Young man.
This man's reputation is being questioned, his family is being attacked, his character assassinated by a very serious allegation of rape, all of which is falsified by the left because they are sick, demented with demons. And here you are in the midst of his trial being a royal feminine hygiene product.
That's what it really says.
You are absolutely disgusting. Repent. Can we get a Dave? We need a Dave. We need a Dave.
We need a Dave on this one?
That's a pretty good Dave one.
What does it remind you of? It is very
it's like a preacher during the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
It's like, you are absolutely disgusting. God holds you over the pit of hell as a spider, and he loathes you.
All right, we'll try it. I'll try to get Dave to do a take on this one.
The Babylon Bee. Dude, seriously. I'm all for jokes and make fun of everyone, even racist jokes. But this is insensitive and immature. So much so that I want to speak to your pastor.
Yes.
This man's reputation is being questioned. His family is being attacked. His character assassinated by a very serious allegation. All of which is falsified by the left because they are sick, demented with demons. And here you are in the midst of his trial being a royal feminine hygiene product. You are absolutely disgusting. Repent!
But he's not going to be able to improve on my...
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
You just want to do it?
Repent. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything to say to it except for that's great. You guys should write us more hate mail like that.
You know we're good podcast hosts because we always say, well...
I don't know what else to say about that.
There's nothing to say about that.
Listen, I got to tell you guys, man, I'm a Calvinist, but I love your Calvinist jabs.
Good.
So it's so good spirited. I'm telling you, really. And plus you do.
Where's your beard?
You do make some occasional Arminian jabs, don't you? I'm pretty
absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
Try.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do the Calvinist thing and the Arminian thing.
Yeah.
I think if you can make fun of it but make it seem lighthearted, like you can take some of the anger out of the debate,
Exactly. In other words, your humor is really good natured. It doesn't have that anger in it that other people have. Yeah.
Well, we try and we talk about that a lot in our book, which you can get on Amazon.
Do we?
I don't know. He was pitching his book.
He was really good at that.
So I wanted to pitch my book. All right. Now, also, Brian, we actually do want to give you the opportunity to.
Yeah, people are interested in you. They want to follow you. They're like, I want to hear more of this guy going off on movies.
Everything's at Godawa.com, GODAWA.com. Everything I have, and it's an interesting website. It's not a lot of free stuff, a lot of cool stuff. So it's not just boring, but the heart of it is that if you're interested in sort of like being able to learn how to watch movies more intelligently like this, my classic book, Hollywood Worldviews, it's on all my books are in audio, Kindle and paperback. Everything's at Amazon. You can go there. And also my latest novel series, which is Chronicles of the Apocalypse. And I write basically Chronicles of the Nephilim, Chronicles of the Apocalypse, and Chronicles of the Watchers. I retell Bible stories through the paradigm of the divine council. So I show the spiritual warfare. I show Watchers, Nephilim giants, and sort of the bizarre stuff that Christians are afraid to deal with that are in the Bible. I retell those stories, and I try to stay true to the spirit of the Bible. So I do that because I have a high regard for the Bible. But there's a lot of imagination in there and a lot of like spiritual warfare stuff. So it
sounds Frank Peretti-esque.
Yeah, it is. But it's a different level. It's not like there's demons behind every tree. It's really more at the high levels of watchers. There's a spiritual war in heaven.
Sure.
What does that mean? That kind of thing. But yeah.
Yeah, I know in Peretti, it's like they would stub their toe.
Yeah.
The character would stub their toe, and then it would switch over. Actually, it was a demon.
Yeah. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do that.
I was curious because you have, I don't know how many of those books you've written. Now you've written these crazy.
15.
Yeah. I'm impressed. So if somebody wants to start, what's the best first book in that whole series of Christian, whatever you call it, fantasy?
Yeah, really. Right? Christian fantasy or biblical fantasy. Ooh, that's scary. Biblical fiction. Actually, I am the biggest bestseller on biblical fiction on Amazon. Nice. All my books dominate the top 10 and top 20, but you want to start with Noah.
Isn't the Bible fiction?
Yeah, that's where the atheist tips his fedora.
Oh, yes. Aha, see, gotcha.
Got him, coach.
Gotcha.
Low-hanging fruit.
But Noah Primeval, that's the first one. It literally starts with Noah's story, and then everything goes from there. So
sweet. All right. Well, we are going to dive in for our subscriber portion. We're going to get into the Marvel universe. So anybody who wants to stick around for that, there's a door right here with a coin slot on it. You got to start throwing your change in there, and then you can come in with the cool people. There's a bunch of nice velvet sofas.
That door with the coin slot in it is located at babylonb.com/plans.
Yes, it is.
So if you subscribe, you get access to the full podcast. And, whether or not you do, we love having you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
And hit us a review on iTunes or something.
Yeah.
We love you.
Till next time.
Tip your deacons.
Yes.
And tip your ushers.
Goodbye.
Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave DeAndrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee, reminding you that butter is to popcorn what not-so-hidden left-wing agendas are to Hollywood.